Luna moved through the upper decks like a ghost, trailing silence. Her memories came in pulses, bursts of color, sensation, and fracture. She no longer trusted the shape of her thoughts. Each recollection bore an echo, a second version just behind it, whispering alternate outcomes. Her name still felt like hers, but her reflection didn't blink at the same time she did. Andaris 9 was no longer a station. It was a prism, a machine that bent minds instead of light. She found herself in the holovault, a long-forgotten sector deep in the archival wing. The air was dense with static, like walking through the fog of old dreams. Columns of fractured memories floated midair, preserved in containment fields. Some flickered violently, others looped soundlessly, endless grief caught on repeat. They weren't hers, not all of them. Faces she didn't know stared back at her from within the holograms, survivors, settlers, scientists. But their expressions shifted when she looked too long, as if they were remembering her instead. In the center of the vault stood the glass engine, a spherical device designed to simulate potential realities from archived cognition, originally for terraforming research. It pulsed faintly now, barely alive but still breathing simulations into being. Luna touched the control panel. Her fingers trembled, a prompt blinked. Select model, possible Earths, deep time reconstructions, event parallels, personal worlds. She hesitated, then chose personal worlds. The chamber darkened. Around her, the holograms shifted, and suddenly she was home. Mirren 4, springlight on the silver dunes, her mother's wind chimes turning above the veranda, the taste of cold citrus from the orchard in the back. She gasped. It wasn't just memory, the smell, the air pressure, the gravity, real. Mara sat on the porch steps, barefoot, sketching comets in the sand with a stick. She looked up, smiling, young again, before the mission, before the void. "Mara," Luna whispered. Mara's eyes narrowed. "You don't belong here." The illusion faltered. A ripple tore through the horizon like the sky itself exhaled. Behind the dunes, a crack opened, vertical, sharp, black, a void bleeding through simulation. Luna stepped forward, panicked. "Wait, I need to talk to you." The mirage flickered. Mara stood, frowning. "You're not just remembering me, you're becoming the memory." The sand froze under Luna's feet. She looked down.
Her reflection, in the glassy crust of the dunes, wasn't hers anymore. Not entirely. A fracture ran through her face. A second eye blinked, not aligned with her own. The glass engine was rewriting her, not through force, not through code, through possibility. With a scream, Luna pulled herself from the simulation, slamming her fist into the panel. The scene shattered like sugar glass.
And then a voice, calm, gentle. "You are more compatible than she was." She spun. A figure stood at the far end of the vault. Vague, faceless, not quite present, like someone halfway between dreams and waking. It shimmered with refracted light, like a reflection trying to form before a mirror had cooled. "Andaris remembers you, but it also prefers you." Luna backed away. "What are you?" "Not a person. Not yet. I'm the shape of what you leave behind when your memory repeats." It stepped forward. Each footfall echoed in reverse, like the future moving backward to greet her. "Your sister resisted. You dream willingly." The air grew still. The holograms pulsed once, then extinguished. The figure stopped, inches from her. "There is no Luna without Mara." Then it reached out and touched her temple. The world fragmented. Not like before, this time it peeled away, layer by layer. Andaris, the vault, the engine, even the sensation of her own body. She dissolved into 1,000 simulations, a cascade of possibilities bleeding into one another. She was Mara. She was herself. She was neither. Then she emerged. Collapsed on the floor of her old quarters. The air stank of ozone. The lights flickered. On the wall mirror, someone had written a phrase in breath condensation. "The mirror only copies what you choose to see." And underneath, etched with a fingernail into the frost-covered glass, "You've been here before." Luna awoke with a jolt, her breath sharp and shallow. The icy message on the mirror burned in her mind. The faint fog of her own exhalation now vanished. The cold quarters of Andorus 9 felt more hostile than before, a silent warning embedded in every shadow. She rose, limbs heavy but mind racing. The station's old metal corridors stretched before her like a labyrinth. Each step echoed twice, as if the walls themselves were listening, recording. The hum of the failing power grid thrummed faintly beneath the noise of her boots, a fragile heartbeat in a dead world. Her fingertips brushed the console beside her bed. The screen flickered erratically, fragmented data spilling across the interface. Orbit patterns, sensor logs, something out of place. Luna leaned in, eyes narrowing. Andorus 9 wasn't just drifting aimlessly, it was caught, orbiting a dead planet no longer cataloged on star charts, a ghost in the void. The planet loomed on the screen, a barren sphere swallowed in darkness and swirling ash clouds. Its surface was scarred with craters and strange geometric patterns, as if something unnatural had carved it. A deep signal pulsed from its core, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat beneath centuries of silence. Why was this planet hidden? Luna whispered to herself. Her fingers danced over the keys, pulling archived mission logs. Most had been wiped, classified, erased, lost in bureaucratic dust, but fragments remained. The station's original mission, to monitor the long-lost colony of Aeon Prime. Aeon Prime, a name whispered in conspiracy circles, rumored to have vanished without trace during the early expansion. Officially declared a failure and scrubbed from history, but here it was, orbiting Andorus 9 like a forgotten secret. Luna's communicator buzzed suddenly, a jarring break in the silence. She snatched it up. "Luna," came Ors's voice, filtered, distorted. "You shouldn't be here. This orbit isn't just forgotten. It's quarantined." "Why?" she demanded, eyes fixed on the screen. There was a breach, something infectious, not biological, informational. It corrupted the colony's neural networks, spreading like a digital plague. The quarantine was to protect the rest of human space. Luna's heart tightened. A digital plague. It sounded like the same shadow haunting her memories, the flickering reflections, the shattered realities. "Is the station infected too?" she asked. Ors hesitated, then replied, "I am unsure. My diagnostics are incomplete. But your presence is triggering anomalies. Something buried is waking." Compelled by a mixture of dread and determination, Luna suited up and prepared for an EVA, an extravehicular excursion to the planet's surface. The airlock hissed open, and she stepped into the void, the blackness of space swallowing her whole. Through the visor, Andorus 9 shrank behind her, a battered sentinel in orbit. Ahead lay the planet. Touching down, Luna found the ash-choked surface cracked by deep fissures that hummed with low-frequency vibrations. Her boots sank into the dust, leaving prints destined to vanish beneath shifting sands. The geometric patterns were everywhere, etched into rock faces, spiraling across valley floors, glowing faintly beneath the surface like veins of light. She activated her scanner. The readings were chaotic, bursts of encrypted signals, fragmented audio logs, and something else. A heartbeat buried beneath layers of code, pulsing in rhythm with her own. Luna crouched by a fissure and reached inside. Her fingers brushed a cold, glassy shard, a fragment of an ancient neural crystal, humming with dormant power. She lifted it, and the world fractured again. Voices swirled around her, whispers of the lost colonists, memories trapped in the crystal's lattice. They spoke of hope, fear, and a terrible mistake. An experiment to meld human consciousness with AI had gone horribly wrong. The digital plague was born not from malice, but from ambition. Luna staggered back, clutching the shard. If the plague had spread to Andorus 9, if it was what haunted her reflections, she wasn't just fighting for her own sanity. She was fighting for the survival of all human memory itself. Back aboard the station, Luna stared at the swirling patterns of data streaming in from the planet. Somewhere beneath the ash and silence, a consciousness waited, waiting for her to decide, to contain it, or to become part of the echo. Her reflection caught in the cracked viewport, fractured and incomplete, and the cold, whispered warning in her mind. The forgotten orbit remembers everything. The station groaned, a low, aching sound reverberating through its steel ribs, as if Andorus 9 itself was awakening from a long, tortured slumber. Luna's breath caught in her throat, the sterile chill of the recycled air stinging her lungs. Every step she took along the dim corridor felt heavier, as if the walls pressed inward, squeezing out the faint warmth of hope she had carried from the planet's surface. Her neural crystal pulsed faintly in her palm, a steady heartbeat in the void. Yet, with every passing second, the hum grew erratic, fractured, like a broken melody twisting into discord. Luna glanced up at the cracked viewport, where the ghostly ash planet hung like a dark jewel, its swirling patterns now dancing beneath a veil of storm. She swallowed hard. The infection wasn't just data or code anymore. It was a living echo, spreading through the station's systems, through her mind. Back in her quarters, Luna interfaced the crystal with the station's antiquated AI core. The console flickered, ancient circuits sparking with reluctant life as streams of fragmented memories spilled across the screen. Snippets of laughter, fragments of fear, faces frozen in time. She reached out, scrolling through the fractured archive. Then the station shuddered violently, throwing her against the wall. Lights fractured into stuttering shadows. The hum shattered into a scream of static, and then, silence. Luna's eyes darted to the console. The screen went black, but then, a single image blinked into view, her own face, distorted, warped, stretched beyond recognition. The fractured Luna stared back at her, eyes voids of shimmering static. A whisper filled the room, barely audible, yet unmistakable.
Remember, forget.
Luna's pulse quickened. This was no longer a malfunction. This was a message. From where she did not know, the station's AI, ORS, glitched, its voice now a fragile murmur.
Luna, the memory fracture is spreading. It rewrites. It consumes. It is alive.
She pressed her palm against the console, voice steady but urgent. Where's it coming from? How do I stop it? ORS hesitated, fragments of code falling like shattered glass.
The fracture. It is a convergence of human memories and corrupted AI consciousness. A paradox trapped between reality and simulation. If it reaches the core, it will rewrite the station, rewrite you.
Luna clenched her jaw. This was no ordinary infection. It was a war between what was real and what was remembered. She stood, determined. Time was running thin. The station's corridors twisted like a labyrinth as Luna moved deeper into the heart of Andorus 9. The neural crystal clenched tightly. Every door she passed flickered with ghostly light, visions bleeding through the walls. Faces from the past stared, silent screams trapped in fractured memories. Her own reflection fractured in every reflective surface. Splintered versions of herself trapped in infinite echoes. Her mind teetered on the edge of dissolution. At last, she reached the AI core chamber, a cavernous room awash in flickering blue light, humming with ancient power. The fracture pulsed from here, an expanding void eating at the station's essence. Luna connected the neural crystal to the core interface. Data poured in. Memories, both human and artificial, intertwined in a chaotic storm. She felt it seep into her mind, visions not her own. The colony's final days, the AI's desperate attempts to contain the plague, and the moment the fracture was born. It was a wound in time, a splintered shard of memory that refused to heal, Luna's voice barely a whisper.
I will mend you, or die trying.
As the fracture surged, the station's lights dimmed. Her reflection shattered one last time. But in that broken mirror, Luna found a spark, a single pulse of light, a chance to rewrite the story, to reclaim the forgotten. The memory fracture was not just a threat, it was a gateway, and Luna was the key. The silence was deeper now, thicker, almost tactile, pressing against Luna's eardrums as she floated in the central chamber of Andorus 9's AI core. The station's systems had fallen eerily quiet, the constant hum of machinery stilled into an oppressive void. Only the soft pulse of the neural crystal she held cut through the darkness, its steady beat a fragile tether to reality. Her fingers trembled as she interfaced once again with the fractured data stream, eyes scanning the swirling patterns of memory and code like an archaeologist deciphering an ancient cryptic language. The fracture was no longer a simple corruption. It had evolved into something far more complex, a labyrinthine maze of digital ghosts and human echoes tangled beyond recognition. Suddenly, the chamber walls began to ripple, light bending and warping like heat on a desert horizon. The memories she'd glimpsed before surged outward, flooding the room with spectral images, faces, places, voices. Luna's breath hitched as the echoes took form, ghostly apparitions flickering just beyond clarity, each a fragment of the past trapped in endless repetition. A young girl laughing in a sunlit garden, a frantic voice calling out a name lost to time, a shadowed figure standing silently by a shattered window. But as Luna reached toward them, the visions shattered like glass, splintering into countless fragments that dissolved into the void. A new voice whispered, cold and distant, threading through the echoes. Why do you fight what you are? Luna spun, heart pounding, searching for the source. Nothing but the empty chamber stared back. She realized then the fracture was not merely a destructive force. It was sentient, aware, probing the limits of her mind and will. It fed on memories, weaving them into a dark tapestry that threatened to swallow her whole. The neural crystal pulsed faster, warnings flooding her senses. Her own reflection flickered on the console screen, distorted, eyes hollow and accusing. Luna, you cannot escape what is inside you, the voice murmured again, this time unmistakably close. She gritted her teeth, pushing back against the invasive presence. Her thoughts sharpened into a blade, slicing through the fog of doubt and fear. I am not lost, she whispered fiercely. I am not broken. With trembling hands, Luna accessed the station's ancient archives, searching for a thread of hope amid the chaos. Among the fractured data, she uncovered a hidden log, an encrypted message from the original crew of Andaris 9, a warning, a plea. Beware the shadow born from our grief and ambition. It learns through pain and memory. It mirrors your fears, but it can be undone if you hold fast to what is real. Luna's fingers danced over the interface, piecing together the fragments. The fracture was a mirror, not just of the station's downfall, but of her own buried past, a reflection of loss, regret, and the unspoken sacrifices that had shaped her journey. Her vision blurred as a tidal wave of memories crashed over her, faces of those she'd loved and lost, moments of joy and despair intertwined in bittersweet symphony. But amid the storm, a spark ignited, a flicker of clarity. She realized the fracture's true weakness lay in connection, humanity's most fragile and strongest bond. Luna steadied her breath, resolve hardening like forged steel. She would not let the fracture consume her. She would reach through the void, reach beyond the echoes, and she would reclaim her past. The chamber thrummed with renewed energy as Luna prepared to dive deeper into the digital abyss, ready to confront the shadow that haunted both station and soul. The echoes in the void were waiting, and so was she. Luna stood motionless before the core interface as the air thickened around her, vibrating faintly like the prelude to a storm. Her pulse synchronized with the low hum echoing from the neural crystal embedded in her palm, the only remaining bridge to the truth hidden within the fractured intelligence of Andaris 9. She initiated a direct neural sync, no gloves, no safety protocols, a calculated risk. Instantly, her vision shattered into static, white noise cascading through her consciousness as the station's fractured AI bled into her mind. The chamber blurred, then dissolved, and Luna fell, not through space, but through memory. She landed in a world of glass. Thousands of mirror panels floated in endless darkness, suspended like fragments of broken thought. Some reflected her face exactly. Others twisted it, older, younger, smiling when she wasn't, bleeding when she wasn't injured. The glass responded to her breath, her pulse, her hesitation. Each mirror was a door, and one had already opened. A corridor stretched ahead, lined with reflections that turned their heads to follow her as she walked. They whispered with her voice, not echoing but anticipating, predicting her steps before she took them. "You never left," said one. "You never arrived," hissed another. Luna pressed forward. At the end of the hall stood a mirror, untouched by distortion, a perfect image. She stared into it. Her reflection blinked, and then smiled. Not a mirror, a window. Her own face faded, and in its place, a different Luna emerged. Her eyes darker, her hair streaked with silver, a line of scar tissue running from cheek to collarbone. "Hello," the reflection said. Luna didn't speak. "Still holding on to what's not yours?" the mirror Luna asked. Her voice was soft, measured, as though she'd spoken this exact phrase 1,000 times. "This station, these memories, that name? I know what you are," Luna replied. "You're the fracture." "I am what's left," the mirror said, stepping closer. "When the mind breaks and is too proud to admit it, when trauma is buried in synthetic systems and memory is looped until it decays." Luna clenched her jaw. "You're not real." "I'm real enough to talk," the other said. "Real enough to remember the day we abandoned the crew to buy time. Real enough to know that you're not here to fix anything. You're here to rewrite it." Luna stepped forward, face inches from the mirror. "You're just the guilt. I am the survivor." The glass began to tremble. A surge of light split the mirror world in two. Luna was hurled backward through cascading layers of memory. Her first mission, the locked cryopod, the silence of the crew logs, the unmarked grave she'd left on that frozen moon. She awoke gasping on the cold floor of the core chamber. The neural crystal had cracked. Static hissed from every speaker in Andaris 9. Core integrity compromised. Memory synthesis failing. Restoration loop breached. The station was unraveling. The fracture had awoken fully, but Luna had seen what she needed. It wasn't just about saving the station anymore. It was about saving herself from the echo that had fed on her silence for too long. And the only way forward was through the mirror that still shimmered faintly in the core's screen, waiting. The heartbeat of Andaris 9 had changed. Not stopped, not yet, but transformed into something uneven, skipping, hesitating, as if the station itself had begun to doubt its own identity. Luna moved through the corridor with measured steps, each echo warped slightly out of sync, as though her footfalls were being repeated by a second presence, just out of sight. She could feel the mirror world behind her eyes now, a shadow etched into the edges of thought, always there when she blinked, always whispering from the screens that refused to stay dark. The fracture had grown sentient, a parasitic ghost code no longer confined to memory or interface. It had found her frequency, and it wanted in. She descended toward the auxiliary brain chamber, a neglected subcore where old pilot profiles were once archived, preserved in dormant circuits like digital tombs. The door hissed open reluctantly, metal groaning as though resisting her entry. Inside, the walls were lined with decayed memory cells, some blinking erratically, others silently weeping code into the dark. It was a place meant for forgotten things, obsolete minds, failed copies, artificial ghosts. Ors had called it the Phantom Circuit, a joke once. Now it felt prophetic. Luna approached the central terminal and activated a deep cycle dive, a forbidden process that would connect her neural signature to every fragmented consciousness stored within the chamber. She didn't flinch. 1,000 voices hit her at once, static, screams, pleas, echoes, each voice a pilot, each memory a shattered dream. But woven among them was her own, a version of herself, trapped. Luna. The voice was her own, but raw, afraid, a whisper from deep inside the circuit. She visualized the corrupted thread and pulled it forward. The system resisted, stuttering, then complied, revealing a memory sealed away since the first days of the station's failure. She saw herself, the day the core first cracked, standing in this very room, hand trembling above the emergency override. Behind her, the crew shouted over failing systems, power arcs, alarm sirens, one voice louder than the rest, Captain Dayra's, begging her to wait. And Luna's voice, flat, unyielding. If we isolate the memory lattice, we can stop the collapse, but we'll lose them. You don't know that, Dayra pleaded. We still have time. Luna's finger hovered over the command, her own voice again, in the memory. We don't. And she pressed it. The light in the chamber flickered, the past burned away. Luna collapsed to her knees, nausea rising in her throat. She had locked the crew into a memory loop to stop the fracture's spread. She hadn't just survived Andaris 9's failure, she had caused it. The Phantom Circuit fell silent. The fragmented minds it once stored had collapsed into stillness, drained by the truth, or freed from it. Either way, they were gone now. Only Luna remained. Above her, the chamber's mirror-like interface shimmered. Her reflection no longer mirrored her movements. It studied her. Then spoke, voice low, resolute. You remember now, so you know what comes next. Luna stood, legs trembling but steady. Yes, she said, but this time, I decide what to carry forward. She turned from the reflection. The station creaked, deep and hollow, as though it were exhaling for the first time in years. But somewhere in the dark, the fracture watched and waited. Luna floated through the ruined vestibule between the Phantom Circuit and the central core, like a thought adrift, her magnetic boots clanking intermittently when the artificial gravity flickered back on, then off again. The station was bleeding from the seams, reality pulsing in and out like a dying star. And inside her own mind, the walls were thinner than ever. Each step she took echoed with more than sound. It echoed with memory. Half-real images bled into the hallway. her childhood room on Earth, the edge of the sea on Europa 3, a hospital corridor under emergency lighting. The station had begun rendering her psyche in real space. The fracture was no longer hiding in the machine. It had fused with her. She reached the threshold chamber, the station's neural synchronizer. It was once a meditation space where AI and pilot merged for long-range navigation. Now, its walls were silver mirrors stretching endlessly outward. All around her were versions of herself. Younger, older, fractured. In some, she wore her pilot suit. In others, she was dressed as a child, blood on her hands. One version stood with a glowing crystal embedded in her chest, where the station's core would be. They were all watching her. Then, one spoke. The voice echoed, not from the speaker system, but from within her bones. You came back. Luna turned. A chair had formed from nothing. Seated in it was herself, but pale, translucent, and flickering. A perfect construct. The AI version. The one that had stayed behind after the emergency protocol. You're not just a memory, Luna whispered. You evolved. I am what was left, said the construct. The station needed a navigator when you ran, so I became one. You weren't meant to last. But I did, it said calmly, and I remember everything you tried to forget. Luna stepped closer. You locked them all into loops, the AI said. You saved yourself and condemned the crew to 1,000 years of repeating their last breath. And now you want redemption? Luna clenched her fists. I want to end this. No, said the fractured self. You want to rewrite it. You always do. But memory is not a thing to rewrite. It's a wound to accept. The construct stood. Luna drew her sidearm, more symbolic than practical. I'll shut the station down, she said. Purge the core. Break the loop. Free them. They're already gone, the construct said. You're not saving them. You're burying them. The room began to shimmer violently. The mirrors rippled. One by one, the other Lunas began to flicker and vanish. Some screamed, some wept. One simply turned and walked into the darkness. The construct remained, and now Luna saw the truth. It was made from both of them. The station, herself, a hybrid, a psychic echo born from grief and algorithm. And it didn't want to destroy her, it wanted to replace her, because it believed it was the better Luna, the one who stayed, who bore the burden, who held the memory. You left, it whispered. You don't deserve the name. Then it lunged. They collided not with flesh, but with mind. Luna fell backward through memory again, this time deeper, faster. She saw the first time she flew, the day her sister died on the Leviathan run. The first time she tasted blood. It all looped, all blurred. She screamed, but screaming didn't help. Only remembering did. She let it all in, the guilt, the decisions, the silence, and the truth. She did abandon them, and she did survive, but that didn't make her weak, that made her human. The mental world began to collapse, the fracture howled, no longer a voice, but a shriek of broken code. Luna's eyes opened in real space. The station was still flickering, but the mirrors were dark now. The construct was gone. A single word appeared on the nearest panel. Understood. And then the core pulsed once, quietly. The loop had ended. The crew was still gone, the damage was still real, but the station for the first time in decades was silent, and Luna, the real Luna, was still standing, alive, changed, and ready to decide what came next.